June, a tragic incident happened in Kaseese, Mbondwe, at a secondary school called Lubiriha, where we saw over 41 students or 41 people losing their lives, of which 38 of those people were students and 5 of which were either service providers to the school and among others. And 6 people were abducted by people who had allegedly the Allied Democratic Forces known as the ADF. Now, this incident brings to the forefront the challenge of balancing security with the protection of human rights. Now, the topic that we're discussing today is Kaseese school attacks, balancing security and human rights. Now, joining me to unpack tonight's conversation, I'm joined by a panel of very powerful gentlemen. So I will, in just a minute or so, I would allow each of them to introduce themselves. And just straight, we go into tonight's conversation. I'll begin from my extreme right as we come this side to my left. So the man to the extreme right, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Douglas. A good afternoon to the viewer out there.
Yeah.
I'm Philip Melissa, a citizen of this country, but most importantly, a citizen of Africa, a journalist by training, and someone who was deeply saddened by the happenings in Kaseese. It is quite absurd that in 2023 we still have such incidences in this country done by Ugandans, because we all know the ADF allegedly, most of its composition are Ugandans. It's absurd. And we really join the families of the young people, the old people that lost their lives, that were killed, that were burnt, that were cut into pieces. We join them in mourning their loved ones. And we pray for those that have injuries. I understand there's some in hospitals, but also the ones that were abducted, that they can be got back and
reunited with their families.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for that very somber and at the same time sad introduction, but powerful. Thank you. We're very happy to have you on the show, and thank you for honoring our invitation. Yes, another Philip.
We're running the show.
Well, thank you. My name is Philip Katakenga, a flesh lawyer from law school at the mighty Uganda Pentecostal University. I'm the president emeritus of the Grotius Law School, and I as well dabble as the Secretary General for the Uganda Law Students Association, a body that coordinates all law schools in Uganda. Politically or nationwide, I serve as the National Youth Coordinator of the National Unity Platform, representing the people or the youths from Chotera District. It's a great opportunity being here, though it is a somber mode, that we're discussing the laws of our brothers and sisters, the leaders of today and tomorrow, the youth and the young. It is a very sad mode that we're in, and the Ugandans out there have a lot of questions that maybe they expect us to answer, but we're not in that position yet. It's absurd that this is not the first instance of a kind to happen. This has been happening now and then, but still lamentations at the end of the day. So maybe today we can have a solution for that.
All right, thank you. Still the same, the mood is somber and sad at the same time. We shall dive into the discussion and we'll get to understand what went wrong, how can we solve this, and how can we balance human rights as well at the expense of security, or security at the expense of human rights. Thank you. Yes, you were earlier on quoting.
Well, maybe.
How sad it is.
Exactly. I have nothing to tell them. We shall mourn, we shall lament, not until, because we know what to do, but not until, not until we do it.
Considering that the attack happened in a school and we saw lives of 38 students who are children lost, and among those, 6 of them abducted, and 5 of those were either staff, there are staff in the school, and others were locals in the community. Now, help us analyze the impact of the attack on the human rights. Help us analyze the impact on the attack in terms of human rights to the victims and to the local communities. In your profile, the human rights defender. So take us to that lens.
Well, thank you. I will not say that the people of Kaseese are in panic. I would rather say Uganda is in panic. It's a quote that I quote him. He said that instability in an area is an instability in a whole. The problem we have is that when an incident happens in Kaseese, we take it a Kaseese issue. When it happens in Masaka, we say that is a Masaka issue. And this has been trending. Well, it's good that I'm not from Kaseese, but I'm touched. Maybe this shall have to make a difference. When we talk about the aspect of human rights, we have lost people. Children have been butchered. This is not the first time it has been done. The the Uganda Human Rights Commission has been reporting this now and then. When you read that its report of 2022, it has a lot of deaths recorded, even from the torture chambers. In 2021, they also recorded a boy of 14 years, who was killed in the interrogation process by the police over allegations of him stealing 1.4 million. And he was killed in the interrogation process. So we have lost, and we are still losing. Actually, we should be on panic. Why? Because I say, maybe we have not yet known what to do. We have kept ourselves in lamentation. The aspect of human rights, it is something that we have had complaints and lamentations over since time immemorial. I tell you, we just have a breath, a moment of breath, but we never come to a conclusion of what brings about the insecurities, of what brings about the derogation of the rights that are non-derogable, that brings about the eroding or the erasing away of the human rights. Okay? We never come to that conclusion. If we say that the Constitution mandates the Army under Article 208 to have us protected, the question is, why has it failed? Maybe it is protecting us, the elderly. Article 34 says the state has to protect the children. Isn't it now a weakness of the army? Well, if it is not, then it is a weakness of the government. We have the army, well trained, with the rewards, crowned as being one of the best in Africa. The question is, how are we the best? In the discipline, internal matters, external? Okay, because we've been crowned. But every now and then, I have not recorded that the UPDF or the police has gotten into plans of the ADF before they probably execute their plans. Well, maybe our intelligence is poor. My brother said it might not be poor, but maybe we have a wicked army. I say a wicked army. This is the statement they made, that 2 days prior to the activity, they had a boy they sent there. That means we have intelligence. The question is, what happened then?
All right. Okay.
Maybe just to put something small to his point.
Yeah.
It is very important for us on platforms like this to run with facts.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that the UPDF has never gotten into the actions of the ADF.
No, please quote me well.
Yes.
I said, I've not run to the facts. that it has run into the plans of the ADF before their execution. I have not.
You have not.
Yeah.
But at least facts are there, including one recently where there was a, can I call it a bomb being planted in Luwero, and UPDF got these guys before they executed. They actually took the media there to see, and these things were actually there. Now the question can be, you debate, was it actually them? Is it actually some PR sort of activity, or it's the reality?
How I wish I can be, just to make a point on that very.
Okay, quickly.
Yeah, just quickly. It is noted that it is a factor that when the terrorist or rebel groups make an execution of their plan, they come out and claim responsibility. It is only in Uganda that our government puts it to them.
It's all right. You have had the time, and we shall have the conversation. It's a debate, and that's why we are here. Now, I want us to balance security and human rights. Now, you know that when you're looking at when you are going ahead to provide security, there are going to be some rights that are going to be violated. Now you know that after these attacks in Kaseese, what happens is the security agencies and personnel there will tell you that you're not allowed to cross this aspect.
Yeah,
that means freedom of movement
Yeah.
is violated. You go ahead and see, you're not supposed to go ahead and comment on certain things. That means freedom of expression is affected. The privacy consent, the transparency and accountability, all those are rights that will go ahead and be affected. Now, I want you to help us examine the challenges associated with balancing security measures and protecting human rights, because you know they are supposed to, for us to have the security that we are yearning for, there are some rights that will be violated. I've just mentioned a few.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Actually, that question would make a lot of meaning if it doesn't right now, if it was those people in position of the government to seek advice. I liked his submission when he talked about the commercial instability, us lacking food and so on, that is driving us to those groups, the rebel groups, and doing anything barbaric just to earn a living. It's Proverbs 11:14, which says that advisors, many advisors you should have, you leaders, so as your government's not to fall. The question is whether the government doesn't have advisors.
Oh, man.
Because they must be advising it. Okay? When you talk about the question of insecurity vis-a-vis balancing human rights, okay, the question is whether we have the security so far. Whether we have the security. Now, these answers would make meaning if the government in power had a gist of leadership still staying in their heads. It would make a lot of meaning. If we have only, or if we had failed on only the attacks of Kaseese, and then we say that we have lost on the principle of human rights, it would make some meaning. But we have lost at different avenues of respecting human rights, starting from Article 24 of inhuman and degrading, protection of life, 22, protection of property, and so on. The government itself and its agencies has turned out to be the first spot of human rights violation. Therefore, the advice is no more of usage. I say, like it is in, I think it is in Proverbs 25:5. It says, remove those wicked leaders, remove them, and authority shall be God honoring. Remove the wicked.
I see you know your Bible.
And you know, the Bible is very clear on that. It says, I shall punish you because your leaders are disobeying. And it goes ahead and says, remove them. And now authority shall be God honoring. If we don't remove this government, I say, if we don't change this dictatorial government that has run everything, no, quote me well. Let me conclude this. I'm not calling, upon the the nation maybe to riot or to secede or, you know. No, we are not rebelling against the nation. We're talking about facts. We are saying that the situation has run amok. The government in place cannot sustain anymore.
Philip,
Maybe because
rhetoric. Let's say today we had a change of government. Surprisingly, we woke up and we had a new government.
Yeah.
Do you think, in one way or the other, the aspect of insecurity would hold?
Now, one of the questions that we are leading in the past incidents of Somalia was about the recruitment of the army. Okay? We saw that very many of these children are coming from a different or from a given direction. And how are they recruited and promoted? They are promoted and recruited basing on the family background, and they are aiming at dollars. The question is, do we still have to have that government that does things that way?
It's all right. It's all right.
Just one very
I don't want these people to misquote me, okay?
No.
Because of the political party.
No, it's okay. It's fine. We have not misquoted you, brother. We have not.
No, we have quoted you well.
You've quoted me well. We need to change the government.
Just two things. One, you ask how the security situation then takes away some of the rights of the people in terms of movement, in terms of what? Way back from the histories and the theories of state formation. The state is a formation where you all agree to surrender some of your rights to a group of people so that they can undertake certain responsibilities.
Social contract theory.
Yes. So basically, if there is a crisis, you signed this. You have to let these people do what they have to do. Number two, when you mention the leaders we have and how they are incompetent and so bad and so on, the leader or the leaders a country has is the exact reflection of their people. How are we as Ugandans?
How do we vote? Who do we put in?
How do we vote?
Let's not dive into that.
Just a simple second. If an ordinary Ugandan is confronted with a situation of having to choose between assisting a neighbor by returning the 10,000 shillings they saw falling out of their pocket to them, and this one has not recognized, vis-a-vis taking it and using it for something different, what is the percentage of Ugandans that will take back this 10,000?
I think 2%.
Thank you.
Anyway, aside from that conversation, my brother Philip here said...
Which Philip?
Philip K. Philip K. Philip K. Said, when I asked him a question to examine the challenges associated with balancing security measures and protecting human rights, in his submission he says that we do not have a government that possibly even should protect the human rights of its people, because we have seen what has happened in Kaseese, right? Now, but I want you, my brother Loki, to come and help us put this conversation to bed. In my opinion, I understand that we have a government that has existing entities in let's say we have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Under the executive, there exists the UPDF, Uganda People's Defense Forces. Yeah. Now, UPDF has been in existence for over 20 or so years, right? Approximately 35 years now, ever since this government came into power.
About 28.
Yes. And they have gone ahead and exercised that mandate and protected the rights of citizens. Now, following the incident that has happened in Kaseese, I just want us to first of all look at it from the perspective of we have an incident that has occurred. Even aside from the incident of Kaseese, the bombings that happened here in Parliamentary Avenue, Komamboga, you see what happens. There is restriction on movement of movement for people to cross in particular areas. Up to date, if at all you are to go to around Buganda Road, you see there is a barricade that prevents you from accessing the other side
I was having a
of the road.
with someone, and it's like the security forces have now chosen to safeguard themselves.
No, I just wanted to help us see it from that angle. How can we examine challenges that are associated with these when we're balancing security measures vis-a-vis human rights? Because we understand rights ought to be protected, but to what extent?
Well, that is a very good question. But before I get in there, I want to also point out that I don't believe the government is the sole problem, as opposed to what my brother here says. But
Let's not take the
No,
comment.
the
no, 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 no.
government.
I also didn't say that. We are also a problem.
I was just pointing
Yeah.
out. Now you see, when you compare, when you put a discussion of security and human rights, you're supposed to first of all put into consideration what is security, or what are the security organs when we speak about security. In my understanding, it would be institutions like the police, institutions like the army, institutions that are charged with the responsibility of maintaining a law and order.
Yeah.
Now, how do these institutions work? These institutions, to some extent, are part of the same bodies that instigate human rights abuses. How? He mentioned earlier, very earlier into the conversation, that there is a child who was tortured into death simply because it was alleged he had stolen some money. And I know for a fact that you also know there have been institutions that were put up specifically for torture, the likes of Nalufenya, which means that these very institutions have been involved in derogating people's rights. But that doesn't mean they are not serving their purpose to another extent. Now, the question of should some rights be derogated if we are to maintain security is what I think I should be answering right now. And the simple fact is that not every single right is non-derogable, and some rights have to be deroged if you are to maintain a stability to a certain extent. People who commit crimes do not forego their rights, but in an attempt to ensure that we have a secure vicinity, we have security, some of their rights will be deroged. For example, rights to for example, rights to privacy, things of that sort. You would find that maybe their premises have to be checked for evidence if you're carrying out some bits of evidence checks anyway. So I think the question of security is a very fundamental one, and the best way it can be answered is in ensuring that some rights would have to be tampered with anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We are almost reaching to the final segment or the final lap of our discussion. I would start with you as I go to my extreme. Right. Let us now look at prevention measures and lessons learned, because from every incident that occurs in a state, we need to infer, or we need to pick some lessons and do better. This discussion is not all about lamenting, but also we have to come up with lessons and solutions. So my question to you is, explore possibly what preventive measures need to be taken up to prevent a possible Kaseese attack happening elsewhere.
I think some of those have already been pointed out in the discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Philip Mulisa over there mentioned that you should be able to answer the question of why individuals would feel like they should volunteer into joining rebel groups. And whereas not everyone volunteers, and some of them are just kidnapped and forced to join, there are some that do volunteer. And why do they volunteer? That's what he was mentioning when he said economic rights. Yes, indeed, the economy should be put into consideration, but that is is something that is subject to a very long term of implementation.
Yeah.
So as we try to implement curing the economy, what do we have to do within this time, now and then, that we find a long-lasting solution? I would stick to my answer that some of these porous borders in places that have imminent danger. You see, I liked that he attacked and he said you cannot cover every single border. No, the question is not in covering every single border. The question is in covering borders that have imminent threats. For example, you know, Congo has a war going on. That means it can easily spill into Uganda.
Exactly.
You know, Rwanda has peace going on. Kenya, maybe there is peace going on. There would not be a need for one heavy deployment over there, but rather the borders that can cause the threat.
Alright.
If I'm allowed a second of
Your
information.
time will come. Your time will come, and you will give us the information. Thank you for that. Philip K. My question to you is: what lessons have we learned from these attacks and the implications that we'll have for the future to come? Give us the lessons you draw, and what we can do to have a better Uganda, more peaceful Uganda.
Well, I don't want to drill this into politics because when we talk about a peaceful Uganda,
Yeah.
a transitional Uganda, a democratic Uganda, we all know what should be done. That is Proverbs 25:5. Remove the wicked from leadership, and
We install someone else.
exactly, who is God obeying. Well, maybe what should
Our
come to
president
the
is a pastor.
well, maybe what should come to the ground is that you know, it is a question. I mean, a question to the security, because after being ranked, praised, and crowned, they have now turned to dance naked in front of us, the Ugandans. It's children, you know, the security that we've been trusting. My brother talked about compensating. Now you compensate for the loss of life. He talked about relocating, like you remove them from Kaseese to Entebbe, where women are killed, or to Masaka, where there is, you know, cold blood murdering, you know. So there is nothing like relocating, there is nothing like compensation. We just know what to do, and we know what should be done. I say, not until, because we know the truth. We all know the truth, by the way.
What is the
But we just tend or pretend to, you know, to be green. We know that the government that is in place right now has nothing like any program that is pushing us forward, but just lacking us behind.
Philip K. Your parting shots in less than 30 seconds.
Well, thank you. I don't have anything to tell the people of Uganda.
You could give us a Bible verse. You were earlier on quoting.
Well,
there.
How
maybe
sad it is.
exactly. I have nothing to tell them. We shall mourn, we shall lament, not until, because we know what to do, but not until we do it. We shall continue crying.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There you have heard it from the young people from the universities. It has been an interesting conversation. I've loved having all of you on this panel. Philip Mulisa, Philip K. Allow me to call you Pastor. Loki Willie, thank you all for honoring our invitation. Tonight we're discussing Kaseese school attack, balancing security and human rights. Thank you very much, and I send my special appreciation to Center for Constitutional Governance, Civic Space TV, the technical team, Rashid and the crew. Thank you for always making sure the show is out there on time and our viewers are, getting the information.